And think about that if you're listening. What is danger to you? Like, how much would you want to be paid if you knew that the risk was not losing your life, but losing a limb? What about losing your life?
Hello,
Hello,
and
and
welcome
welcome
back
back
to
to
the
the
Two
Two
Cents
Cents
Podcast.
Podcast. I'm Hannah Williams,
And I'm James Daniels.
and we have a kind of dark but very important conversation planned for you all today. We talk a lot about jobs here. Obviously, we're all
A
about
lot.
money and careers, but people have asked us in the past, what are the most dangerous jobs? And we have a good idea of what those jobs might be. I'm sure you can think off the top of your head what some of those jobs might be as well. But I thought it would be a good idea to lay out what the most dangerous jobs are, how much they pay, why they're dangerous, and whether or not we think that they're still worth it.
Yeah, and I think that this is a really good light to shed on these roles as well because, we always think about how much a role requires, but nobody ever really thinks about how much it really requires.
Yeah, the cost of it. I know we did our Evil Money episode on Deepwater Horizon, and that gave me a whole new perspective of oil, when they work out
Yeah,
there, the
yeah. Rig
dangers of those
workers.
jobs, rig workers. Right, exactly. And also not to discount AI. This might be a conversation where AI might actually be a good thing.
Or some type of computing or, some type of way to get the actual human being out of those dangerous areas.
Exactly. And unfortunately, some of these are going to be outdoor jobs, so I don't know how robots are going to fit in, but any way we can save human lives is a good thing.
Yeah, and I meant like with this, we're talking about actual fatalities, not just injuries. And
Right.
that's the big thing too, because a lot of jobs do face a lot of injuries, and the injury could be anything from a paper cut, to a stub toe, but it could also be, you losing an arm or even your life. But we're going to primarily focus on fatalities and the mortality rate of these roles.
Yeah, because this is like very dangerous jobs. And I think it's important to also give these workers their flowers,
Yeah, they're
give
flowers.
let them know that we see them and we understand how dangerous it is. And hopefully at the end of this, you'll also have some appreciation for these jobs as well.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. We're going to break down the top 10 most dangerous jobs according to mortality rate and how much they pay and whether or not the pay is worth it.
Let's get into it.
Just to be clear, are these organized from most to least dangerous?
Yes, yes. So organized from highest mortality rate down to, I wouldn't say lowest because it's still relatively high.
So let's go from least dangerous on the list to most dangerous.
Yeah, we could definitely do that. I do want to preface this conversation with saying that our information is coming from the Bureau of Labor Statistics as well as OSHA's website at OSHAeducationcenter.com.
It doesn't get more accurate than OSHA.
And the reason why we're using OSHA is because OSHA is the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, and their job is to make sure that they minimize in-work injuries as well as protect workers.
Yeah, this is a really valuable and reliable source of data.
Yeah, and another clarification, when we say dangerous jobs, we mean mortality rates as far as in dangerous, because like I said, an injury can be from stubbing your toe to ripping off your arm. So
That's a good
yeah,
clarification.
great clarification when it comes to that.
Okay, so starting at number 10 on our list of the most dangerous jobs is iron and steel workers. So structural iron and steel workers make on average between $50,000 to $70,000 a year depending on the region. And of course, we have interviewed our fair share of trade workers, so
Yeah.
that pay is definitely going to go up if they are unionized, if they are in a higher cost of living location like Boston, for example, and it's going to be a little lower in lower cost of living and non-unionized workplaces based on general statistics.
Yeah, and with that, the mortality rate obviously reflects. I mean, with the amount of work and the amount of danger that they're put in, the mortality rate goes up. OSHA reports their mortality rate is 21.3 per every 100,000 full-time equivalent workers.
So does that mean that on average about 21 workers pass of every 100,000 in that field?
Yep, that is correct. That is correct. And most of them suffer from, if not all the same, which is either slips, trips, or falls.
Wow. Oh yeah, because they are high up there. Ooh, okay.
Yeah, and this is why they've implemented things like safety harnesses as well as like 2 to 3 point contacts and stuff like that. It's to try to make it so that they reduce the amount of slips, trips, and falls. But when you're doing a very hazardous job, that's bound to happen at some point in time.
Slips, trips, and falls. Okay. Wow. Dangerous job for sure.
Very dangerous.
All right, going to number 9 on the list, we've got agriculture. I don't have like clear information on pay for this one because it is so wide reaching. There's a lot of jobs within agriculture, but I would say on average, these jobs make under $50,000 a year. There's not a lot of money in farm work.
Yeah, and I wouldn't think that it would be. I mean, a lot of the times you're doing pretty much kind of like the same work over and over again. So they tend not to pay people a lot whenever that happens. And with that, OSHA has reported about 22 injuries per every 100,000 full-time equivalent workers. That's 22 people who, are no longer around because of the work that they're doing.
Why is it dangerous?
The reason why this one is actually really dangerous is due to transportation incidents.
Oh,
Yeah, so I'm assuming it's a lot of time when moving equipment from one side of the field to the other, or even running equipment. I mean, they have all of these heavy machineries that's constantly working around the clock on these fields. It would make sense that every now and again someone gets caught up in one of them.
yeah, that's not surprising when you say it, but still not fun to imagine.
No, definitely not. And I mean,
Mm-mm.
like I've seen everything from tractors tipping over to people getting caught in, the turbines that,
Ooh,
yeah,
wow.
it's a dangerous job.
Dangerous job, and it's out there in the heat and, nature.
Yeah,
It
well,
cannot be an easy job.
yeah, and with that, like I said, we're looking at the mortality rate or fatality rate, but I'm pretty sure a lot of them suffer from very severe injuries like heat stroke.
Yeah,
Like that's something
or
that's not
losing
calculated
limbs.
into this, or
Hmm.
losing limbs. And that's another thing that when it came to this list, OSHA wanted to clarify that the reason why like soldiers aren't included, the US
Mm,
military isn't included into this list, that's actually because with the vast amount of workers, injuries aren't as prevalent.
mm.
So I think that they said that the number was roughly like 11 fatalities per every 100,000 US military.
Wow. Wait, so you're telling me that some of these jobs we're about to go through have higher fatality numbers than becoming a soldier, like joining the military?
Yeah, and I mean,
Wow.
the last time I believe that they actually did the statistics for the military was roughly about 2019,
Well,
and
that's
now
not too long ago.
we're in peacetime, so we don't necessarily have a war going on,
Right.
so injuries, fatalities, mortalities aren't.
Good time to be in
Yeah,
the
around.
military,
Yeah,
but
good time to be in the military.
yeah, not endorsing it or anything.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So then let's go to the next one, which on my list is electrical maintenance, which includes power line installers and repairers. And the average pay, we've interviewed people who are in electrical, the pay is very, very good. According to Monster, on average, these electrical workers make about $69,000 a year, although we have interviewed some unionized electricians and technicians who make well into the six figures. It really just depends on your job, your tenure, and whether or not you're unionized or not.
Yeah, and that number is honestly just a little bit higher than the agricultural workers with about 22 and a half, 22.3, something like that. So it's actually not reported in OSHA's website, but a lot of the times these guys suffer from, climbing all of these huge towers, the possibilities of, falling as
Hmm.
well as being electrocuted, which if you're working with high power, that's kind of a risk that you're taking.
And also the exposure to weather. If
Weather
there's
is
a
another.
storm going and the power's out, there's a lot of competing factors there that are very dangerous.
Yeah, they definitely have a tough job.
Wow, they deserve the pay for sure. All right, next on the list, our seventh most dangerous job is a truck driver, and that consists of heavy truck drivers and tractor trailer drivers, more specifically. And the pay for these jobs is about $45 to $55,000 per year, depending on the routes and the employer. Of course, I know there's somebody listening to this who knows somebody who makes a lot more doing this driving, but this is average pay, so it'll definitely differ for everybody else.
Yeah, we've interviewed a lot of truck drivers. I mean, so we know roughly about how much they make depending on region and routes and, cargo and stuff.
Yeah, and to give a little bit of transparency there, we did interview the owner of a truck driving company in California. I think that he wasn't from California, they were just visiting,
Yeah.
but I remember that he made $300,000 a year, but he was the owner of the company. So if that helps give you some sense of, what ownership at the high end looks like versus more average driving pay.
Yeah, and as far as their fatal work injury rate, they are few bodies above, so right now we're still within like I wouldn't say a healthy number,
Right.
but we're still in the lower 20s, and this
Hmm.
one is at 26.8
Wow.
for every 100,000 workers.
And I can imagine accidents.
Correct. Transportation injuries, which would be things like coming in contact with other vehicles, coming in
Hmm.
contact with other parts of the road.
Yeah, and that can be caused by fatigue, can be caused by weather. There's a lot of factors there that can cause accidents.
Another thing that isn't included in this because this is about fatalities, but their rate of skin cancer. Like a lot of them actually suffer from
Wow.
skin cancer due to the harsh UV rays being on the road all the
That
time.
makes sense. Yeah, you're basically like being blinded by it. And I don't want to generalize, but I'm looking at a man who has a lot of problems putting sunscreen on.
The
And
melatonin loves the sun.
I know that driving definitely veers male. A lot of drivers are male,
Correct.
although it does not mean you do not have to be a male to drive, but I know that it veers male. So I wonder if the skin cancer has something to do with y'all just not wanting to put sunscreen
Yeah.
on.
Well, I know like a lot of truck drivers too, they tend to like tint their windows and stuff to help
Mm,
reduce that amount of UV
that
rays
makes
that are coming in.
sense. I
But
just
yeah,
thought they were scary.
no, and I guess it's like a thing. If you look at truck drivers, look at their arms next to each other, you'll see which hand is their
Is their
driving hand.
driving
Yeah,
hand?
because you can tell about from the sun exposure.
Wow. Okay, now we have to go interview a truck
Right.
driver.
And
We
like,
have
let me see your
questions.
hands.
That's super interesting. All right, so next on the list at number 6 is construction, which includes laborers and supervisors. Pretty wide range there. I would imagine anybody that is involved in construction, that is a dangerous job. So
Very
they didn't
dangerous.
they didn't specify specific job titles, but just in general construction. And the average pay for laborers is between $37,000 to $45,000 a year, and supervisors can earn over $60,000 a year, and that tracks for what we've interviewed before in the
Yeah,
past.
I'd say that's kind of on the low end,
It is
maybe.
on the low
Yeah,
end.
because especially like depending on I mean, every job depends on region. You know, like
Hmm.
that's one thing that we know for certain. But construction tends to do pretty well as far as their pay goes.
When business is good, definitely.
Yeah, but people also understand that it's a very labor intensive job. Like
Right.
it's gonna drain your body, and with that, you'll be exposed to a lot of different things that can possibly harm and or injure you.
Yeah, what does
Uh,
that look like?
yeah, so their fatal injury rate is actually 27.4 for every 100,000.
Ooh, it's getting up there.
Yeah, now we're starting to climb up in those numbers. And the reason for these, the leading causes are falls, slips, and trips, exposure to
Hmm.
harmful substances, and environments.
Harmful substances, definitely those chemicals that they work with.
Yeah,
Kind
and
of
this
like
is
what you
why
had with the glue pits or whatever they called it in the military. Did I call it right? No,
the glue pits,
what's it called? The glue?
it was poop.
Oh, the burn
Yeah,
pits, not
burn
the glue.
pits.
It was poop.
Yeah, it
It
was
was poop
poop.
causing cancer. Well,
Right.
I'm sure they have their porta potty
Yeah.
issues.
Well, I mean, but with that, it's not even just that, right? So
Hmm.
you have exposure to doing things like sanding and,
Right.
cutting stuff,
Inhaling these
welding, like
things.
all of these things, these particles that's floating around in the air. If you're not
Hmm.
wearing the proper, respirator, then
Right.
you're breathing that right into your lungs.
Over time, that can cause serious damage.
Yeah, and then they also experience the same thing when it comes to exposure to the environment. They tend not to work as much in the rain, so
Hmm.
I believe that that's a good thing. But that heat exposure is what really gets people.
Definitely. Anytime we drive by construction, like on the road, I slow down like a snail because
Yeah,
I'm just so scared of hitting them. And I just always, especially when it's hot, I'm like, I wish I had water to give them. But then I'm like, they don't want me to just stop and give them water. But I feel bad for them.
yeah, man, they might appreciate it. You never know.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe next time. Okay. Next on the list at number 5, so we're halfway there. This is the fifth most dangerous job on the list are aircraft pilots slash flight engineers. And I wonder why those two are put together. They must have what's the overlap there?
Yeah, I'm not even sure. I assume that typically they might work hand in hand with one another, or
Well, I'm thinking it's more so that the flight engineer works with the planes. So they're maybe closer to the engine. They're also outside. And then the pilots, we can talk about.
yeah, we assume why
Yikes.
pilots.
Like there's only really one answer why
And that's due to
crash.
transportation. Yeah,
Yeah.
transportation incidents. And the number for them, 31.3 for every
Oof.
100,000. But I did also hear that there's I mean, like, I don't want to speak this into the world, but I did hear that a lot of pilots actually deal with, like, suicidal ideations and, problems
I
with,
did hear
yeah,
that.
with that. So I
Yeah.
don't know if that actually plays a role into, the calculation for this?
Actually, I wonder because there are certain jobs that have high suicide rates, including air traffic controllers. I know chefs are up there. I know dentists are up there. And pilots are definitely up there too. I remember reading, if not a year or two ago, there was an article about how there was a crisis of mental health amongst pilots in the United States. And definitely, I'm sure it's a lot of stress to carry the burden to get these people from point A to point B safely. But yeah, I mean, it's also that's all in your hands, including your own life.
Yeah, correct, correct. But yeah, they it says that their leading cause is transportation incidences. So
Wow.
I'm assuming we can all assume
We
what
can all
happens there.
assume what that means. I wonder how the flight engineers are included in that.
Oh, it says engineers may be exposed to chemical hazards like combustible fuel or even risk being sucked into a jet engine
That's what
while
I was
working
worried
on
about.
complicated mechanical
So
systems.
that happens. Oof.
Very dangerous job.
Let's talk about the pay. So we know pilots can make over $200,000 a year. Pilots are very well compensated because there are not that many of them. They have these really important skills, and so they're definitely well compensated for that. And then flight engineers are making on average about $111,000 a year. I think as we get towards the end of this list, we can debrief on the pay and the accounting fatality rate, but this is still kind of low pay considering these are very dangerous, most dangerous jobs.
Yeah, yeah. And with the next one, it actually jumps up 10,
Oh,
10
wow.
people. Yeah. So
So, without further ado, next on the list at number 4 is garbage and recycling collectors. And my average pay records show, depending on locality, these workers make between $40 to $45,000 a year. This includes those DC 33 workers that were
yeah,
on strike
yeah,
in
it
Philly.
actually includes them. And with that, now we really understand why they're striking besides just pay. It's a very dangerous job.
Yeah, and they
Uh,
were making $39,000 to $42,000 a year, not much more with this new deal they got, which is not great.
and with that, their fatality rate 41.4 for every 100,000.
Oh my gosh.
So it's only
That's a jump.
climbing.
Wow. Why is it so dangerous? I'm sure they have a lot of, bin issues, maybe getting sucked into the machine potentially.
They actually suffer from the same thing as pilots,
Mm,
transportation incidents.
really getting hit by their own cars,
That's what I'm
probably
assuming.
backed
Especially
up
like,
on.
yeah, if you
Mhm.
think about all these guys, they're driving these long routes, early days in the morning, hopping
Yeah.
on and off of this huge vehicle, to handle your trash,
Mhm.
your recycling. So I'm assuming a lot of injuries happen there. And then on top of that, they're on the road where we know a lot of people, don't pay attention when driving, stuff like
Yeah, so
that.
they're not even getting hit by their own truck. They're getting hit by everybody and
Yeah. Yeah.
and that makes sense. I mean, they're outside of the truck in the road, just grabbing trash and press and go.
Yeah.
And if you're not paying attention, I'm sure you could hit one of them.
Well, and then you know
Wow.
how impatient some people be.
Oh
If you
yeah,
have
when they
this,
try to jerk around
yeah,
it.
you have a
Mhm.
truck who you know is going to stop at every house to pick up trash,
Mhm.
but you're just so impatient that you need to hurry up and hop around them.
Mm.
That's when a lot of injuries happen.
Yeah, so if you're listening to this and it's trash day, take this as a reminder to just take your time. These workers have an incredibly dangerous job, and getting hit by cars is one of the biggest risks. So, you getting to your destination any faster is not worth these workers losing their lives. So, just keep that in the back of your mind next time you get impatient behind a garbage truck.
So moving up to number 3 on the list, it's a job that we actually really don't pay that much attention to
Hmm.
until you actually need it done on your house.
So we're talking about roofers. They are the third most dangerous job, and they have an average pay of about $39,000 a year, which doesn't surprise me because we have interviewed a roofer in the past, remember in Richmond?
Yeah, yeah, I
He was
remember.
really nice, and I don't think he made more than $70,000 a year. And I remember he talked about how dangerous the job was. That stuck
And
with
how
me.
terrible it is for your back.
He literally was in his late 20s.
I'd say probably 30s.
Maybe. And he was like, I can't move my body.
Yeah.
And he was so young.
But yeah, you're on this roof for hours on end, servicing someone else's house,
Hmm.
exposed to the harsh sun rays this whole time. And I mean, if you slip and fall, which roofs are slippery, like that, they're made on that purpose. They're
Yeah.
made
And
for
it's
that purpose.
sloped.
Right, to help run rain off. I'm
Hmm.
pretty sure people aren't supposed to be up there, you know?
Yeah, so those injuries are probably pretty obvious.
Yeah, and a lot of their fatalities are actually brought on by fall, slips, and trips
Hmm.
because of the elevation. You know, if you fall off a 3-story building, the chances of you living after that are
Yikes.
slim. And I don't know if you want to live after that, you know.
What's the fatality rate then?
51.8.
We jumped another 10 points.
Another 10 points.
Wow. I
Very
didn't know
risky
that.
job, yeah.
I'm seeing a trend here that a lot of these trade jobs are
Yeah.
very dangerous.
Right, and that's the other thing. It's a lot of these trade jobs. I mean, like we don't see blue collar jobs.
I haven't seen an office worker on this list yet.
Right, paper cuts. That's what
So
they
the
suffer
next
from.
time I hear a software engineer tell me how difficult their job is,
I
I'm
understand
gonna
it's
go on a
difficult.
rant.
It's not dangerous. Yeah.
Right. We understand it's difficult, but yeah. Okay, so moving on then, we're at the final two. The second most dangerous job on the list is a commercial fishing worker. And the average pay was shocking to me. This is according to Monster. There are jobs there in this role hiring for $28,000 a year. And the fact that this is the second most dangerous job, I'm just flabbergasted at the low pay.
You would never be able to guess what the fatality rate
We're
is.
already at 50, 80 per 100,000.
86.9.
That's
Jumped
crazy.
30 points.
And I can only imagine you're working in the ocean, very
Well,
dangerous natural
that's the
circumstances,
thing is you would assume that it's due to that, but
getting
no.
eaten by all the fish.
A lot of the fatalities actually are due to transportation again, and
Mm,
it's getting to and from locations.
wow. That's so interesting. So it's like ships crashing or, falling overboard?
Yeah, it doesn't even say it just says traversing difficult environments. So whether that's, hunting and where you have to actually
Right.
get through places.
Right, because actually commercial fishing, I think we're including hunting as well here,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay, so that's
hunting and
important.
fishing.
That's
So
very
whether
important.
it's, traversing dangerous terrains or even, traversing dangerous seas, both of these combined is enough to make them number 2 on this list.
How much of it is caused by like the animals they encounter, you
Oh,
think?
they didn't break that out. I would think I would think not
Any
as
big
many.
tunas out there ravenous for some
Or like
fishermen?
a swordfish right through
Yeah.
the I mean, I've seen a
Some
video.
jaws type thing.
Right. Somebody has a a,
A
a,
vendetta.
a vendetta against a shark or something.
Yeah. Sorry. We try to bring any level of humor to kind of dark topics.
Yeah.
I think it's just trauma.
But yeah, hunting and fishing, very dangerous job field to be in. Please be safe,
Please be
honestly.
safe. Goodness.
Yeah, what we're seeing as a common trend is transportation for a lot of these roles, which is actually very shocking considering, I mean, transportation. Like we all transport something ourselves or equipment at some
Hmm.
point in time throughout the day, throughout the week. So for so many people to lose their lives on the road,
Just
in
going
the
to point A to
sea,
point
going
B.
from point A to point B is crazy.
Definitely gives you some pause to, take your time when you're
Well,
going from different places. But, this actually doesn't 100% surprise me because going back to the Evil Money episode we did about Deepwater Horizon, do you remember
I
at the
remember.
beginning of that
Yeah,
episode
I
I had
remember
told you that
the
the
helicopter
oil rig
ride.
workers, right? So the oil rig workers, that's a very dangerous job. They didn't make the list. So clearly it's not as dangerous as these jobs, but I had told you how the rig workers were not nervous about being on the rig. They were nervous about the helicopter ride from land to the oil rig, which had crashed. Like several helicopters had crashed, a lot of people had died. That was the thing that made them the most nervous. So that actually makes sense.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure then it would be the same thing if they
Yeah,
did make the list, transportation.
just little things like that.
Yeah.
Wow. Crazy. To cap off our list, we've got the number one most dangerous job in the world, and it's a logging worker. A logging worker, according to Monster, once again, the average pay here is about $38,000 a year. And once again, that is not nearly enough pay for this horrible information you're about to give me right now.
Yeah, their fatality rate is the highest
Let me
with
guess 120?
98.9
Wow, almost
for every
100.
100,000. Yeah. And they usually
Wow.
suffer from things like contact with objects and equipment. They're usually working around a lot of dangerous things, period, whether it's a super tall tree, a chainsaw,
Oh my gosh.
wood chipper,
Heavy.
just massive things that can cause a lot of pain. Yeah, it's just a terrible thing. I mean,
Slim safety margins there
the only
too.
thing that I can say is that like the American idea of loggers is the only good thing about it.
Yeah.
They're like these super brawly, handsome individuals.
Shoot, that's what we marketed some of our toilet paper off of is
Brawny,
brawny.
yeah, yeah.
But nobody talks about the danger of the job.
The fact that that mascot is in a very dangerous role.
The most dangerous role. This is the most dangerous job ever. That's crazy. Wow. So, do we feel that these jobs pay enough for the risk?
Honestly, no.
Hard no.
And I can understand, especially like why people are pushing for unions in a lot of these trade roles because like
Absolutely.
their 40 hours a week is 40 hours of being in danger.
Yeah,
That's
losing their lives, not just, and think about that if you're listening. What is danger to you? Like, how much would you want to be paid if you knew that the risk was not losing your life, but losing a limb? What about losing your life?
yeah, I think it's a whole lot different. Cuz I remember working in an office and I remember working in the Marine Corps,
Mm-hmm.
like I felt as though when I was in the Marine Corps, the pay definitely wasn't enough considering, what we were doing. You're literally putting your life on a line.
Yeah, you signed up for it.
Yeah, but I signed up for it,
Mm-hmm.
and then working at a desk, I'm like, oh,
You know
well,
what the risk is.
right,
Yeah.
right. I knew what the risk was before I signed
And
up
there's
for that
some level
role.
of acceptance there.
Yeah, but I don't think that, like, if I signed up to be, a construction worker, that I would assume that my job is super dangerous. I understand that it's very taxing on the body, but it
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't be super dangerous. But that's
Yeah.
exactly what it is, and I feel like that's the same as for a roofer.
Yeah.
I understand that it's going to be taxing on the body, but it shouldn't be as dangerous as it is.
Yeah, and to think about comparing it to the military, which I think is a really, good baseline because that is the job that like you know what you're signing up for. I mean, granted, you know what you're signing up for if you're a logger. I'm sure they tell you about the dangers as well, but there's something about signing up for the military. You are like willingly signing over your life
Well,
and you're
because
okay with losing it. Like that's what you sign up for. But I think that the key difference here between military and a logger is when you join the military, there's like an air of honor,
yeah,
with making that sacrifice that you'll get for the rest of your life. You'll receive that recognition for the rest of your life. Your family will as well. So that's huge. There's that, emotional capacity. But then there's also the benefits, in exchange for making this sacrifice and taking this risk of the ultimate sacrifice, we're going to take care of you and your family for the rest of your life, quote unquote, quote unquote. But you do get health care. You do get
yeah, you
educational
get
benefits. You get
healthcare, housing,
housing.
education. You
But do
know,
you get similar things in these other jobs? In a union, yes. And
yes,
that's what a union fights for. But in these other jobs, if you're not unionized, like the roofer that we
yeah,
interviewed, who was
exactly.
in his beginning of his life, young man, and his body was broken. And he didn't tell me about any benefits or what, the future held for him other than probably disability and struggling.
Yeah,
So
well, and that's the thing
I
too
hope the pay is worth
is
it.
the disability after that is paid for by you.
Right.
Like unfortunately, like the military does have issues, but like they're working on it as far as in veteran care. I know that my disability is paid for by the government.
Right.
I know that I can go to the VA hospital if I need anything done. I know that my prescriptions are paid for. Those things are taken care of. But if I was a roofer and after 9 years of being a roofer, I decided I no longer want to be a roofer because my body hurts.
Right.
I am now responsible for taking care of my body after that.
Yeah, and
That's all out of
whatever
my pocket.
yeah, and whatever, disability you're dealing with 30 years from now, good luck.
Yeah.
You know, it's we've heard a lot of trades workers who have told us that after decades in, it does something to the body. And so I personally, knowing these risks, I would want to be paid a lot more. But I'm kind of glad we went through this list as well because it really just gives me a newfound appreciation for those workers and the level of work that they do and the risk. And I do also think it's another interesting discussion about the gender dynamics of this because a lot of these jobs are predominantly male occupied.
Yeah.
And I do think it's an interesting discussion point. Should men, receive some type of recognition for taking on these more difficult jobs? Can women get involved as well so we can even out this
Even out the
dynamic?
field. Yeah.
What and then all in all, what can be done to make these jobs safer?
Yeah,
And
that's
I don't know about AI in these.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going to harp on is like with this, like I just honestly didn't understand that a lot of these rules were as dangerous or are as dangerous as they are. But like OSHA is there to help implement things to, minimize injury and protect the workers, as so they say.
Hmm.
But like I know what my opinion of OSHA was when I was a mechanic,
Yeah,
so I think it's more so what can we do in the roles ourselves to make this a safer job?
yeah,
Because we don't want to rely on OSHA. Like OSHA is a government entity, I'm pretty sure, right?
yes.
Yeah, government entity. And we as Americans, we hate government overreach.
I don't generalize us. Don't put us in a bucket. Some people don't like it. I think government overreach is important when it comes to protecting workers because the reason OSHA exists is because of all these workplace fatalities happening and accidents. So they created this department to start passing rules and having oversight to make sure that workers weren't being put in danger.
But
So,
with that, I meant like
like, you
OSHA.
gotta have a
But
little give and
OSHA
take.
isn't present at every job site. OSHA isn't present on every vehicle that's, on the road or every boat that's going out. So like what are some things that we as workers can implement to make the job safer for ourselves?
Absolutely. I think that there's definitely going to be specifics to the job that
Yeah.
I can't give, my 2 cents on. So listen to OSHA when they tell you don't do this and don't do that at your workplace. But I think overall, applying to all workers as a blanket statement, no job is worth losing your life over. And I think a lot of us can agree with that. So, some blanket things that we can do to protect ourselves at work: hydration, moving slowly, moving with intention, thinking ahead, not being absent minded, getting enough sleep. Don't
Yeah.
come to work fatigued. Don't drive fatigued. We clearly saw that transportation to and from.
Transportation is such a huge part of it. And I think for that, like we as individuals should more so look at how can we protect those workers as well,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to like the garbage and recycling workers.
Yeah.
That's I think that that's more so of a society's issue
Hmm.
rather than, them as workers, their issues.
Right, 100%, definitely. And also with that, commuting can be dangerous too. We know that driving in the afternoon, especially when the sun is going down, that's when the most accidents occur, especially on Friday evenings between 4 and 7, I
Because
believe.
everybody's rushing to get home.
Right. So on your commute home or commute to work today, just take the time to think, let me pay attention, get off your phone, don't text and
Get
drive.
off your phones. I hate that. I'm a motorcycle rider, so like that's my biggest pet
That's your
peeve
pet
is
peeve.
seeing people on their phones, man. Oh.
It can wait. Check it afterwards. Just be intentional with your movements and pay attention to the world around you.
Today is definitely one of those days where we kind of put everything into perspective because we usually talk about everything that's so giddy and great about the workforce. But like this is a very important topic that we needed to discuss.
Yeah, so if you have anyone in your family who's interested in these careers, definitely tell them about the risks. I mean, we're not fear mongering or anything. It's not like it's a crazy number, but it is important to understand that these are dangerous jobs, why they're dangerous. And so we can do what we can, like you said, to take care of them. And if you're moving and operating in those spaces, take care of yourself so that you can protect yourself for another day.
Yeah, and we're with you.
But thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. I thought this was an important topic.
Yeah, and as always, thank you guys for listening to our 2 cents, and we'd love to hear yours. So make sure you drop it in the comment. Let us know what you're thinking.
Yep, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.